Everybody in here, that was my fault. I apologize. And I'll just go ahead and get started then. How about that? So anyway, thank you so much for being here and being part of this session. This is really one of my favorite sessions to do because there's so many different ways that we can use AI to level up teaching and learning. I think a lot of times people think that, some of these AI tools are just like ways for kids to avoid having to really do their homework and everything. And they think that it's going to replace thinking. But I think that you'll see in this session that there are lots of ways that we can use it to level up thinking and to serve as, sort of a teaching assistant and almost like a pedagogy builder, so to speak. So I'll go ahead and dive right into this. So this session is called 10 AI-based upgrades to teaching and learning. And so we're going to get into 10 of them. I will say I've got more than 10 that you can go check out, but I'm only going to just do the 10 of them. Unless we got some extra time at the end or something. So here is a document that you can go check out. You can go to ditch.link/upgrades. In fact, if we've got a chat going and somebody is able to drop that link in there, that's great. If there's no chat, then you can just type that into your browser if you want, put it into like a secondary, like into a separate tab or something. But ditch.link/upgrades. And if you go to that link, ditch.link/upgrades, you'll see this document right here. Which you'll see all the way up and down the outline over here on the left. There are like 17 different things. It started as 10 upgrades, and then I kept adding things to it. And so it became 10 plus upgrades. And so now I'm all the way up to 17. In fact, I probably ought to try to add some more to it. But this document, you can hang on to this document if you want to be able to get to be able to like refer back to it and everything. Feel free to share it with people too if you'd like to. But if you scroll up and down through it, you will see that each one of these suggestions, it gives you a little summary. A lot of them give you just general tips about interacting with AI. And then there's this. You'll see that with a lot of them, there are copy and paste prompts. So if any of these are supposed to work through an AI assistant like ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot, all you've really got to do is just highlight and copy the prompt and then throw it into an AI assistant like ChatGPT or Copilot, and then just adjust the parts in bold to match what you do. So it kind of like, really, copy and paste. It's a pretty easy way to get started on things. So anyway, just wanted to let you know that that's there in the document. Feel free to hang on to it. It's not going anywhere. It won't expire. You can pass it along to people if you want to. So. Okay, so let's dive right into these. The first one is actually one that I touched on some in my opening keynote, and that was to do a lesson design deep dive. I think that's one of the first places that I've seen so many teachers start using AI as a sort of like a lesson planning assistant, where they will they'll like ask it for teaching ideas and, do the infinitely zoomable teaching plan, kind of like I talked about, where you can zoom way out and look at a great big unit over multiple weeks, or zoom into one particular day, or even zoom in further to one particular lesson and ask, what are some discussion questions that I could ask about this particular topic? How can I facilitate my discussion? What are some common misconceptions that students have? Basically, the sky's the limit as far as what you can ask it to do to help you out with things. So a lot of these slides I've already shown you, so I'll just kind of hustle through them again. So this is the 30,000-foot view of the 2-week unit for the middle school social studies class on the Peloponnesian War. And again, these major AI assistants are the ones that I really love to use. But if you love some School AI or some Magic School to be able to do this stuff, they have teacher tools that are built where all you really have to do is just fill in some blanks to be able to get some of those lesson design ideas. So if you like those, that's always a good way to go. And again, you don't have to have the perfect prompt, because if it gives you something and it isn't exactly what you want, all you have to do is just ask it. Again, just ask it to change something about it. Nice thing that I like about AI is that you can ask it things over and over and over again, and it never rolls its eyes at you. It's pretty great. So there's our 2-week unit. And then if we zoom in on day 5, this is all looking very familiar, isn't it? It's like an infinitely zoomable teaching plan. I promise the other 9 in this presentation aren't just rehashes of things that I had in my keynote. But then there's your sort of like day 5 breakdown. And then we do the Taylor Swift stuff. And that was one point that I was trying to get across there that I didn't hit on too hard, was that it doesn't even have to be good to be usable. Because sometimes I like to ask, like if I put something up there and it's like, oh, that isn't good. Well, that's a critical thinking opportunity, right? To look at it and go, how could it be better? How could you improve it? Because again, it takes a lot of deep thinking for students to be able to figure that stuff out. So when it comes to lesson planning, that's definitely a big help. All right, let's move on to number 2. And I really love this one. I don't know about you, but I feel like my brain thinks in analogies all the time. And honestly, it's a really good teaching practice. It's sort of a best practice, because what are we doing? We're taking new content and we're connecting it to and relating it to something that students are familiar with. And so if they're familiar with something and they have sort of a structure in their brain of how that works, and we can make connections and say, oh, this is exactly like that in this way, or, oh, this is not at all like that in this way. Those analogies can help students to really connect things. And so when I'm asking an AI assistant for analogies, one thing that I really like to do is, well, like it says here, you want to interact with the AI assistants to get what you want, which means, continually ask it like follow-up replies and everything. But I wanted to show you one other thing that I like to do. I'll go open up several AI assistants in my browser. So there's ChatGPT, there's Google Gemini, there's Microsoft Copilot. Let's say that I've just got those 3 open, or I could bring up Claude also. Let's see if we can get that one up here. And so we'll log into that one real fast. And then what I like to do with them is I like to ask them the same prompt all the way across the board to all 4 of them. So for instance, just a second here. There we go. So we're going to start now, and let's say that we want to do a let's say that we're going to do an analogy. Again, I'm going to just kind of stick with the Peloponnesian War. I promise I won't do that for like every single thing, but like I'm teaching my 7th grade social studies students about the Peloponnesian War. Can you create an analogy that will help them better, an analogy connected to their lives and interests that will help them better understand the Peloponnesian. I really struggle with spelling Peloponnesian War. Nice thing is that you can make spelling mistakes and it generally understands you. So I went ahead and did that. Now I'm going to copy this and I'm going to submit it to ChatGPT, and there it goes. And then I'm going to submit it to Google Gemini. I'm going to submit it to Copilot, and then I'll submit it to Claude. And here's the reason that I like doing this. Is that they all give you sort of different answers, because they're all different AI models and they all process things differently. And honestly, even if you're working in the same AI model and you ask it multiple times, it does the work like original, brand new every single time. So sometimes you get different answers even from the same model. But one of the reasons that I really like the using all 4 of them is you get different variations, but you also start to learn the differences between the different models, right? Like it helps you to understand how they're, and some of them are better at certain things than other things. So the more that you try them and the more that you start to see what they can and can't do and what they do well and what they don't do well, you can start to pick more specifically. There's no shame in like having a favorite and just kind of always going back to that one. But once you understand the strengths of all of them, then you can be a little more, you can be a little more specific. So ChatGPT says that it's like, imagine your school has two big rival clubs, the Alpha Club and the Beta Club. And so this to me looks a little bit vague because it's like, well, what kind of club is it? And it talks about the differences between the two, and they start trying to outdo each other. It makes it hard for either club to focus on their goals and get in the way of their overall success. I like that little summary right there. If we go over to Gemini, it's like a big fight between two rival school cliques. Interesting. So now the popular cool clique with lots of friends, the tough athletic clique focused on training being the best. Okay. They used to be friends, but now they can't stand each other. Copilot does, let's think of it in terms of a school rivalry. Imagine two middle schools, Athens Middle School and Sparta Middle School, competitive and have their own strengths. Two schools have been the best in their own areas, but starting to compete more and more. Full-blown school war with each side trying to outdo each other in every possible way. Debate, sports, arts, even school spirit goes on for years and years. And then Claude, which by the way is sort of the more verbose of the four AI assistants. Oh, look at this. Two major social media apps, Athens Gram and Sparta Talk. Really? Okay. And so then Athens is known for its artistic filters and creative content. Sparta is known for its short, catchy videos and challenges. And they keep going back and forth, back and forth. Interesting. So anyway, if you start to use that, I mean, just start to think about how that might connect with what your students are learning. If you have something and you're trying to make it a little bit more relatable, asking it for analogies is good. I think of the Peloponnesian War ones, this was my favorite one when they connected it to two rival soccer teams. I thought that was a really good connection. But we also find that sometimes they're not all that great. This is probably one of the worst that I've seen. Two superstar sports teams, the Owls and the Falcons, in your school. And I'm like, how do we have two sports teams in our schools that compete against each other? And then in the end, a huge fight breaks out. And, oh, that's the Peloponnesian War. And I'm like, I don't think we want to promote kids actually having a fight to connect it to the Peloponnesian War. Anyway, analogies. Another thing that AI can do that I really, really like. All right, let's move on to this next one, which is, this is kind of a cool activity that I think can really support and help your writers, especially your struggling writers. Or maybe if we don't want to use that word struggling, maybe we call them your emerging writers. You know, the ones that are still trying to get better. And you know, those are the kinds of students where if you assign them to write something on their own and they have to start with a blank page, you know, a blank sheet of paper or a blank document, and they're looking at that blank document and that blinking cursor, and they're just like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. I don't even know where to start. I mean, I know Mr. Miller told me where to start, but I don't even know if I can do this. And they start to have that self-efficacy issue, right? Like that belief that, yes, I can do this. And it starts to sort of stand in their way. But if we give them the appropriate scaffolds, if we kind of like give them some support to get them started with writing, then maybe they feel like they can do it. I really like this activity to be able to do it. So this is an activity that I call the Frankenbot Activity. And so this is a writing activity. If you'd like a template that you can use to assign this to students, if you end up liking this idea, you can go to that link right down there, ditch.link/Frankenbot, to be able to use that yourself and then make a copy of it. And you can make a copy of it for Google Slides or PowerPoint, either way. But here's how it works. So you as the teacher, here's what you do to set it up. Let's pretend that all 4 of these pages are blank. And I know there's text on them, and I know it's teeny, teeny, tiny. So I'm just going to tell you what they would say. So this first one, you come up with a topic that you want students to either write about or to think about. So the topic I came up with here was, tell me why the United States shouldn't have used the atomic bomb in World War II. You know, for like a history class to get students thinking about, you know, something that happened in sort of a different perspective, in a different way. So as the teacher, beforehand, you go out to an AI assistant like ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot or whatever, and you plug that prompt in, and then it writes you an essay. So you're going to copy that essay and you're going to stick it right here into this first page of the template. And then you're going to go back to the AI assistant and you're going to say, can you give me another version of that essay? Only change the main points around, or change the tone around, or change the overall feeling, or just like any different adjustment. So you're going to do that. You ask the AI assistant for a second version of that essay and you stick it in right here. And then you go and you ask the AI assistant for a third version and you stick it in right here. I just stopped with 3, but inside of this template, you could duplicate some of these pages right here and you could add even more versions of the essays if you wanted to. But I thought 3 was a good place to stop. Okay, so pretend that all 3 of these first pages have example essays on them. And remember, these are AI-generated essays. Everybody is identifying that they're AI-generated essays and that they are not student-created essays. It's that transparency thing, right? Where everybody is being forthcoming and honest about who's doing what. And we want to at least try to model that if we can. So 3 AI-generated essays on these pages, and then this 4th page is just blank. Pretend like it's just blank. Now it's ready to be assigned to the student. And so the student takes it and the student reads this essay and reads this essay and reads this essay. And then the assignment is that they're supposed to pick and choose parts out of all 3 of these essays and cobble together their own final version of the essay. And so what's happening here? They're not having to write the essay, just completely all on their own, blank screen, blinking cursor. They don't have to do that. But they are making decisions as writers. So now we're using those AI examples and we're kind of like playing with the AI examples to see what we can learn. It's almost like reverse engineering things. Like, if you ever took apart your parents' toaster or blender or a TV or something because you wanted to figure out how it works, that's kind of what we're doing here, right? So we're assembling together an essay out of the parts over here. You see why I called it the Frankenbot template now? Like Frankenstein's monster, like assembled together from multiple parts. I've heard it's not a good joke if you have to explain it. Anyway, but it's not a joke, it's a name. Anyway, you've got these 3, and then the students pick and choose the parts and cobble together an answer at the end. And in fact, what you could do is you could have them highlight different parts inside of the essay, and you can have them use the comments feature and just throw a comment in and say, here's why I chose this. Here's why I adjusted this. Here's how I changed this to make it sound a little bit more like me. And so that way the student is identifying what they've done as the human. And then we also know that, these are all AI examples. And it's yet another example of what I talked about in the keynote of teaching AI without teaching AI. It's like you're not having a whole unit about what is artificial intelligence, but if you talk to students about being transparent about what the human did and what the AI did, that's a way that we can kind of give them that sort of that real world lesson on how people are really using it. So the Frankenbot template, which again, you can get at ditch.link/Frankenbot. I'm not sure if you all have the chat. If you do, I'm afraid to say that I can't see it. It says we're having trouble loading your messages. So if you all have a chat and you're trying to type in there and everything, I can't see it. I'm sorry, but feel free to discuss amongst yourselves. And if you don't have it, then you don't have it. So, okay, wonderful. Let's keep moving, shall we? Let's go on to number 4, which is summarize new information with the Be the Bot activity. So this is yet another one where you can use an AI assistant like ChatGPT, but let me sort of pull out this one thing that's happening with several of the examples that I've shown so far today, is that with this activity, along with the previous activity, the Frankenbot activity, notice that students aren't even using AI directly. And see, whenever students use AI directly, there are implications on that, because with a lot of AI-driven tools, the terms of use The terms of use with a lot of them state that, of course, students have to be at least a certain age to use them. With ChatGPT, for instance, it's that they have to be 18 or older unless they have parent consent, parent guardian consent, in which case it can be 13 or older. And sometimes we don't have parent consent, or there's just all of these sort of different implications. But the user, let me tell you this, the end user in that terms of use, the end user is the person who's laying fingers on the keyboard. And so if you, the teacher, are the one who is laying fingers on the keyboard and is actually submitting the prompt, you're the user and not the students. Now, what you do with that response is up to you and is not subject to the terms of use. So you see where I'm going with this. If you do a prompt and then you take the response and you put it up on a projector screen or an interactive display, then the students aren't the users at all. They're just reading the text. You can even take that text and copy it and paste it into a document that students have access to. So you see, it's all running through the filter of the teacher, of the highly qualified teacher. So that's one way that you can kind of make the most of all of these things and also stay within the terms of use and also sort of protect your students and give it a quick once over. It's kind of like with YouTube videos, right? Like, you don't want to show students YouTube videos that you haven't previewed, because we've all probably been there at some point, right? There's almost always, seems like there's always, everybody's got a story, So anyway, I just wanted to pull that out real quick as a quick little thing about terms of use to make sure that you all were familiar. Okay, so let's talk about this Be the Bot activity. This one is super fun. And so here's how this one works. And again, there's a little link right there if you want to use this template with students. And so here's the Be the Bot exercise, or the Be the Bot activity. What you're doing is you're in your classroom and students have just gotten done learning about something. Maybe they've been studying it that day or all that week or something. So they've got sort of foundational knowledge about it. What you do is you tell the students, okay, I'm going to go over to ChatGPT or Copilot or Gemini or whichever one, and I'm going to ask it this one question about our content, about what we've been learning. Now, usually it's better if it's not like a, true or false, type of question, but almost like a, like where there's some sort of judgment. Like, for instance, what are the top 3 things? What are the most important things? What are, like that kind of stuff. And so if you say, I'm going to do that, but I want you to predict what the AI assistant is going to say. That's the Be the Bot activity. And so then what do? You have students that work individually or in pairs or in small groups. And the reason this template exists, it's a super simple template, but it's a nice little workspace. What the students do is they write the prompt in this top box right here. So you tell them the prompt that you're going to use. And I actually like to, either type the prompt into the template or type the prompt on a screen where students can see it so they can see the exact verbiage that I'm going to use. Because as we know, whenever we do a prompt, the way that we word the prompt has something to do with the results that we get. Again, this is another example of teaching AI without teaching AI. It's those little bitty lessons that come in it. And so, like what I might do a lot of times whenever I do workshops like this, I'll do a Be the Bot activity. And so in fact, if you want to do one, you certainly can. So I might say, I'm going to go over to, let's say I'm going to go over to Gemini, to Google Gemini. I always hit new chat, by the way, whenever I have a new topic. Because remember, I was just talking about the Peloponnesian War. But now I'm not going to be talking about that anymore. So I hit new chat to kind of hit reset, sort of. So anyway, I hit new chat and I'm going to say like, I'm a tourist. This is one of my favorite ones to do with workshops. I'm a tourist who's visiting South Texas for a week. What are some of the top tourist destinations I can visit while I'm there? So think about that for just a second. Now, if we were all together in the same room, I would have you all kind of like get together in groups and brainstorm. But just off the top of your head, what do you think maybe the top 3 things are that it's going to suggest? Giving you just a couple seconds to think while I take a sip of coffee. Still working through my first pot of coffee. I think I'm on like cup 2 at this point. Hoping that you all are all adequately caffeinated. Okay, so I gave you a moment to think about it. I'm going to go ahead and submit. Now, you might already have questions about this prompt or like things that you would want to say about this prompt. That's okay. We're going to get to that in a second. That's all part of the activity. So let's see what happens when I say that. South Texas offers a diverse range of experiences, bustling cities, pristine beaches. Beach lovers, South Padre Island. Hey, there you go. Suggest Corpus Christi, Port Aransas, city life and culture. There's San Antonio, Austin. Does Austin count as South Texas? I don't know. McAllen, nature and outdoor enthusiasts, Big Bend National Park, Padre Island National Seashore, Laredo, Rio Grande Valley, the RGV. And then to help you plan for your trip, consider these factors: interest, time of year, budget, that kind of thing. Okay, so you could notice that in this, you might have, you might, as the student, might be looking at these responses and go, oh, yeah, I had South Padre, I mean, we had South Padre Island right there at the top of our list too. Or on your list, you might go, hang on a second, I had a couple of other things on here and they didn't make the list. Like, so sometimes I'll ask students, what are the things that are on your list that weren't on Gemini's list that you would fight for? And then the other question that comes up too, and this is the thing that I love, is that sometimes, and teachers do this in my workshops, but students also do this too, they start to look at the prompt and they go, okay, what does South Texas actually mean? What if we had changed it to like the South Padre Corpus Christi area or something? It would have probably eliminated Austin. So the questions you can start asking is, how would you change the prompt and how do you think that would change the results? And so see, within the confines of whatever it is that you're teaching, you give them a question like this where they have to make some judgment calls. And then you get the results up there and you have them. So a couple of things that are cool that come out of this is that you have students critically analyzing the AI responses, which, by the way, talk about a life skill, is to look at what AI gives you and try to figure out if it's any good or not, using your own human brain to analyze what the AI has given you. And see, the nice thing with this activity is that students have already studied the material. So they have a foundational understanding. I always like, whenever I incorporate AI like this, I always like to do it after students have done some of the foundational learning so that they're not asking AI for all of the details and all of the facts and everything, because AI gets it wrong sometimes. So, so with this, they can kind of like use what they've learned to have that critical conversation, but then to also analyze the AI and to talk about how the prompt was written. And the neat thing is that with this little activity, this little Be the Bot activity that we're doing, this is one where those conversations sort of show up naturally almost. So anyway, if you like this one, you can use that template right there, ditch.link/bethebot. Super, super simple, super basic activity that you can use. Okay, let's keep moving. Let's go on to number 5. And this is to make a custom song with SUNO. So I don't know if you all are familiar with SUNO. If you joined the keynote this morning and you showed up early enough to hear them playing the music, I'm pretty sure that it was either SUNO or Udio, which is another one that does this, that they used to create the song. So let's switch over to SUNO real quick, which, by the way, if you go to suno.com, you can get signed up for it and you can start to use it. What SUNO will do, I'll explain to you as I get logged in here. What SUNO will do is it will let you give it a topic. And then once you give it a topic, it's going to write a song for you. But it's not just going to write text. It's going to actually compose the music so that you can click play on it, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to go to, yeah. These are some of the ones that I've created. And so really all you've got to do, before I show you that real fast, all you've got to do is you go to create, and it's got this text box right here where you can describe the song. And then there's other things that you can do. You can upload audio. You can give it some, you can give it your own lyrics and have it, you know, generate the music for it. There's all sorts of things that you can do. And it even gives you some suggestions here too. But like, for instance, let's see, this one was kind of fun. I'm going to pull this one up real fast. And hopefully I can get this so that you can hear it. I didn't set up my my sound, but maybe it'll play through my speakers and you can hear it. But I was working with a group of teachers and I said, okay, help me come up with just like a topic, something related to something that you do in class. And I had middle school health teachers in the room. So they're like, can you please write a song about hygiene for middle schoolers? And I was like, yes, talk about something we need in this world, a song about hygiene for middle schoolers. And so this is what it came up with. I'm going to try to play it.
Hello? We can't hear anything.
Say it again.
We cannot hear what you're playing.
Okay. That's fine. Thanks, though.
Oh, it's because I don't think you have access to the chat or like the screen of the presentation. Somebody has been raising their hand.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks. Now, all right. Now that we've stopped and we've talked about that, to the person that's raising their hand, do you still need to say something? Okay. Anyway, if you couldn't hear the music, that's all right. But you can see the lyrics, right? Like these are lyrics about about middle schoolers using good hygiene and everything, which is fun. So anyway, this is SUNO, and one of the things that I think is super fun about this is that you can use it to create these custom songs about really anything. So whatever it is that you're studying, if you're studying characters in a book, if you're studying a topic, if you want to make something catchy for students to help them remember things about whatever it is that they're studying, this would be an easy way to do it. In fact, you could even use it for non-content related things like you could use it for, you know, if it's somebody's birthday, you can make a song about that student and then play it real quick at the beginning of class or something. So all sorts of ways that you can use it. So, and so anyway, that's SUNO. That one was, I think, number 5. All right, since we're sort of in the middle of this, I wanted to take a quick stop real quick and let you know that that link that I gave you in the keynote speech about it was getmatstuff.com. If you didn't go and do that, this is just like a different link to the exact same spot. But this one is ditch.link/join. You can really use either one, but both of them take you to a place where you can go get my AI teacher toolkit, as well as a whole bunch of other free ebooks with a bunch of teaching ideas in it. And so it'll take you to a page kind of like this where you can enter your email address. And that'll also get you signed up for my free email newsletter where you get practical teaching ideas, just a little drip of new ideas in your inbox kind of throughout the week. So if you haven't gotten a chance to do that, I highly recommend it. That's where all of the stuff that shows up in my presentation shows up in my email newsletter first. So if you like the stuff that you see in my presentations and you would like a little dose of it kind of throughout the week, that's probably the best way to do it. Okay, let's keep moving. Let's go on to number 6. This is another one that I think is super fun, is to do a text adventure with class content. So I'm not sure if you all have done I'm not sure if you've ever, as a kid, read those choose your own adventure books, but I used to love those things. They're those books where you would open them up and read the first few pages, and then it would say, if you want to go into the cave, turn to page 52. If you want to go up the hill, turn to page 68. And you would keep going and keep making decisions and keep turning the page to different parts, and there were all these different endings, right? So as a Spanish teacher, I wanted to create some stuff kind of like that for my students. And so, I would create text adventures and I would do them with Google Slides and I would link the slides together and everything. And it took forever. And then the students read them and they got done in like 5 minutes. All of that work took me like an entire evening of writing and getting it all right. And then, took my students 5 minutes to read all of them. But today, thankfully, we've got the ability to write some of those choose your own adventure style activities with our own class content using AI. So I want to give you an example. So let's go down to, this one is, trying to find, why am I having so much? There it is, text adventure, of course. Okay, so it's number 11. Now remember in this document, which was at ditch.link/upgrades, if you go to ditch.link/upgrades and you come down to number 11, which is do a text adventure with class content. This is the choose your own adventure style activity. Notice that right here, I've got a prompt for you to try. So what we can do is we can highlight that prompt and copy it. And you notice there's some of these parts here that are in bold, right? So with the parts in bold, those are the parts for you to customize to whatever it is that you teach. So this one is an example about ancient Mesopotamia. I now realize that a lot of my examples are social studies examples. I'm married to a social studies teacher. Can you tell? So anyway, I'm gonna paste that prompt, and of course I could go through and I could change. If I don't teach history, I just change history. If I don't teach in high school, I could change that. I could change this. I could change what it is that it wants to include. But let's look at this prompt real quick. I'd like you to create a text adventure game for me. I'm studying history in high school. I phrased it in the first person so that it would create it for the student. I'd like it to explore Mesopotamia and help me explore important people, events, and concepts in its geography and its language. Create it like a historically accurate story, teaching me about Mesopotamia while I'm interacting with it. And then the rest of it is like how I want it to do it. 3 paragraphs at a time, stop and ask me for a decision, continue in the story in a way that's consistent with the decision that I've made in the story after you've asked for my choice 6 times. And you might look at all of this and you might think, oh my goodness, I can't think of all of these things to say, like whenever I write it for the first time. And that's okay, because you don't have to. The way I did this one, I kind of wrote a sort of a very, very basic prompt at first, and then I saw what it gave me, and it wasn't exactly what I was looking for. So I was like, okay, if I want it to be better, I'll just add a new little part to the prompt. And so I just took the same prompt, I just copied it, pasted it in, and added something else to it. And then I saw the result was better. But then it still wasn't quite what I was looking for. And so I just kept adjusting and adding new things to the prompt until I finally got something that I was happy with. So you might be that way too. Never hurts to start with a short little prompt and just see if you get what you want. But if you don't, you can always continue adding new things to it until you get it right. So let's take a look at this and see what it does. So here's our text adventure game. The year is 2350 BC. You awaken in a reed hut, the morning sun filtering through the woven walls. Your head throbs as a strange language echoes in your mind. You're a stranger in a land of mud, brick, and canals, the realm known as Mesopotamia. This fertile crescent, cradled by the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, is the birthplace of civilization. Here, the first city's laws and written languages emerged. Okay, and so it says you're a scribe, and it tells you that your hut is nestled in the city of Uruk. And so it describes some more, and then it gives you some options of where you want to go. Will you delve into the heart of Uruk to uncover the secrets of its ziggurats? Will you venture into the marshes to learn about the reed boat people and their way of life? Or will you brave the desert to encounter nomadic tribes and their ancient traditions? Do you see what it's doing here? It's giving you 3 options, and they're all different things about ancient Mesopotamia. The ziggurats, the reed boats, and the nomadic tribes. But again, it's done like a story. So let's say we want to go look at the ziggurats. We'll just hit number 1. And so instead of me, the teacher, writing all of the options for all of the things, AI just comes up with it just in the moment. And so there it starts to talk about the ziggurats. And as it continues down, it tells you about them, and it tells you in a story, sort of like a story. And then it says, what will you do next? And then it gives you 3 more options to choose from. And so it continues doing that kind of over and over and over again. So if you think about this, like, this would be kind of a cool thing to be able to put up on a projector screen and have students kind of like discuss in small groups what, which choice they want to go to next. And then they get to see what the choices are. And the other thing that I think is important here too is for them to, again, look over the response and go, does that sound right? Does that seem accurate to you based on what you've studied? So again, this is another example of, make sure students have foundational knowledge about whatever it is before you start kind of toying with it and playing with it inside of artificial intelligence. So anyway, that's another one that I think is really fun, the text adventure with class content. And there's a couple of examples of it. Okay, I've got about 15 minutes left, and I want to jump over to some other AI-driven tools other than just using the large language models like ChatGPT. And this one is probably one of my absolute favorites right now. It's this app called Mirror Talk, which you can go find at mirrortalk.ai. And so here's what I'm noticing is that as all of this AI stuff is starting to starting to come out, you've got some developers that are creating tools that just kind of like replicate some of the low level techie things that we've been doing with technology apps for a long time. But then you get other folks like the creators of Mirror Talk here that are going, what is it that makes really great, really solid teaching and learning? And can we help scale that for teachers? Can we help create something that helps teachers to do really good, meaningful learning with the help of AI? And I think this is really one of the best examples of it being used. So let me take you on a quick tour of how Mirror Talk works. It's all sort of based on having students reflect on their learning, which at first you might be like, reflect on their learning, like that's the best thing. Just go with me on this, okay? So the examples that you see on the screen here come from the mobile app, and you can use it with the mobile app if you want to. You can also use it on like a laptop computer or a Chromebook or anything else. They do have a web version also. And so what it does is it opens up and then it comes over here and it says, okay, I'm going to ask you some questions. Tell me about something you're working on. This is sort of like the entry point. And so whatever students are working on, it could be an essay that they're writing, it could be a project that they're working on, but it doesn't even have to be that they're trying to create a product. It could be, tell me about something you're learning about. So if we were just learning about ancient Mesopotamia, tell me what you've been studying when it comes to that. Or if you're reading a book and you just got done with a particular chapter or whatever. So the student tells them about something that they're working on. And then it prompts them to choose a focus. And so there's some really neat ones when it comes to all of this. Like for instance, the summative one is just going to have you talking in general about the topic. The retrieval one is where it's going to ask you a bunch of questions for you to try to recall things that you remember about that topic to improve your long-term memory. The problem solver is one where, if there's a problem, I'm going to do the vanilla ice. If there's a problem, you'll all solve it. Like that's kind of the focus of this one, right? And then there's the creative booster. This one's maybe my favorite one. This is when you come up with the topic and it takes you in all of these different divergent paths to try to discuss a whole bunch of different topics about it. And so what it does is you pick one of these focuses and then it starts asking you questions related to that focus. So for instance, in the creative booster, one of the questions it asked me is, what patterns have you noticed in your learning behaviors that either help or hinder your progress? So it's asking me for patterns. So I'd never thought of looking at patterns before until it asked me the question. So it asks you a whole bunch of questions. And if that was all that it did, I think that would be great. If it used AI to come up with a bunch of questions to help students think about what they're learning, I think that's awesome. But it actually does more than that. See, it will create these AI-based summaries of what the student just said. And so what it'll do is it'll take the transcript of all of those responses and it will create these little student summaries where it'll pull out a little quote of something that the student said. It'll talk about the type of response that it was. The understanding gives you a percentage of how well the student actually knows what they're talking about. The zone, this one blows my mind. You ready for this? Do y'all know about the zone of proximal development? You know, it's that I think it's Vygotsky, right? Who talked about how the zone of proximal development is a little bit above where your understanding is, to challenge students just a little bit. And so it'll tell you if they are, you know, in the ideal spot for the zone of proximal development, or if they're being challenged a little too much or a little too little. And then the other thing that really blows me away, let's see if I've got another, I don't have another screenshot. But it will also look at any possible biases. So it does like a bias check. So it'll tell you, you know, like sometimes I get the self-confidence bias or I get the confirmation bias. So it even analyzes it for that. So with any one of these, you can click on it and get a detailed report of what students are thinking. So this Mirror Talk is a really pretty cool thing. So if you want to learn more about it, you can go to ditch.link/Mirror Talk AI. We've got a whole post about it on my website. But the other thing you'll find there too is the nice folks from the Mirror Talk team have given me a link that you can use to get a full year of free, or a full year of premium Mirror Talk for free. See, Mirror Talk will give you a handful of these AI summaries on the free plan, but if you want unlimited AI summaries, then you've got to have the premium plan. And if you want a whole year of it, like this whole school year, you could get these. So just go to ditch.link/Mirror Talk AI to be able to take advantage of that if you want to. Okay, I got 3 more. I got about 10 minutes left. So we were talking a little bit in my keynote speech about AI generated images, and AI images are, I mean, that was probably one of my biggest go-tos in my foreign language classroom. You know, when I was back in the classroom this last spring, I used AI to create all of these images that my students could describe in Spanish. They were, I mean, it was really one of my absolute favorites. So actually, before I get to this, I want to demo for you one of my favorite AI generators. And this was one that was on my slides earlier. And so it's called Ideogram. And you can go to ideogram.ai to find it. So all you have to do is just describe and text what you want. Now, the reason that I love Ideogram is that its AI model for creating images does such a good job. For instance, I used the AI image generator called Midjourney for months, and I had a paid Midjourney account. Midjourney has been considered kind of like the top of the line of these AI image generators, and I was paying like $10 a month or something to use it until I started using Ideogram, and I started getting just as good responses, if not better, from Ideogram. And so let's create something real quick. So I'm from rural West Central Indiana, so I want to create a picture that kind of looks a little bit like what things look like around here. So let's see how it does. So the image is, let's see, what do I want to create? Let's say a rural country scene with a red wooden covered bridge. By the way, the county that I live in, Park County, Indiana, is considered the covered bridge capital of the world. Of all the things for you to be the capital of the world for, you might not consider covered bridges, but we got a lot of them. A red wooden covered bridge over a quiet, babbling creek, flanked by, by cornfields and a prairie landscape. Okay, so I did my best to add some details. One of the things that I like about ideogram is that if you turn magic prompt on, it uses AI to actually improve your prompt. So you'll notice that this is the way that I wrote it. But then when I hit generate, it's going to create these images. And then once I click on an image, it's going to show me what the AI augmented image what the AI augmented prompt looks like. So this is what my prompt is. But then we're going to see in a second, see it's actually like working on generating it right now, but we're going to see in a second how it improved the prompt for me. Okay, while we're waiting for that, I did want to show you this real quick. This is another one of my favorites. This is Microsoft Designer, which you can get to at designer.microsoft.com. And the thing that I like about it is that it has all of these different modes that you can use to create a whole bunch of different stuff with AI. So if you go to designer.microsoft.com and you log into your free Microsoft account or a school Microsoft account, you should be able to create some AI images. So this was kind of a fun way that I used AI generated images to fit into a lesson. So this was an example unit that I developed in conjunction with Women's History Month. And it was a lesson about Amelia Earhart. And so just for fun, I asked Microsoft Designer to create what Amelia Earhart would look like as a Lego minifigure, as a Funko Pop doll, as a Barbie doll, and a character in a Pixar animated movie. And now take a look at those pictures. Like, those are pretty good, right? Now, here's kind of the fun thing, and this is how I think this could fit really nicely into a lesson, is again, after you've done some learning, after your students have that foundational understanding, you show them these pictures and you go, how do you think this is accurate or inaccurate? How would you do this differently? For instance, you could look at the Lego minifigure and you could go, okay, look at the accessories. Is there anything that you would change? Does this fit the, sort of like the characteristics of what we think Amelia Earhart looked like? Like any of that stuff. Now, the other thing that I think is fun about Microsoft Designer is that, and I'm going to leave this up here, is that you can create these fill in the blank prompts. There's been a bunch of people that have been creating these where you write a prompt for an image, but then you identify certain things that people can fill in the blanks for. This can be a really great way for, I'm going to put that link back up there in a second, but let me type it in. There it is. So these fill in the blank prompts are kind of a fun way for you as the teacher, or, if you serve other teachers and you're trying to kind of like teach them, you can give somebody else a link to one of these things. And all the person has to do is fill in the blank to get, for instance, what they would look like as a Lego minifigure or as a Funko Pop doll or whatever. What you see on the screen right here is a blog post that we created where we gathered some of these fill in the blank prompts so that you could go do some of these yourself. So if you want to see what you would look like as a Lego minifigure or Funko Pop doll or Barbie doll even, or like any of this stuff, a Charlie Brown version of yourself, a Scooby-Doo version of yourself, you on Time magazine, like any of this stuff, you can click on one of these buttons and you'll notice that it's going to call up this great big prompt that's already been written, and all you have to do is just fill in the blanks. And then it's going to create something for you. So anyway, that could be kind of fun. So even with this Barbie doll example or the Funko Pop example or whatever, with any of these, if you give students one of these and have them create one based on a character that they've been studying, that could be a really fun thing. Okay, let's go back to ideogram real quick. Aha! And there is, actually, this is pretty decent. I'm going to open this one because that looks a little more like the covered bridges that we have. It's a little small, but we'll go with it. And so check out that image. That's pretty good. There's some corn. There's another field. There's the creek that it's going over, the bridge and everything. And then you notice, here's the prompt that I wrote. And look what it did. It used AI to improve the prompt with more details, which I think is pretty cool. And honestly, whenever it does this, the results in the images are way, way better. So that's number 8, I think, which is to do AI generated images. And I got about 2 minutes left, and I got about 2 of them left on my list. So I want to show you these really quick, and then you can go check these out on your own. One of them is to provide writing feedback with Curipod. These last 2 actually both have to do with providing feedback to students on their writing. And so if you're not familiar with Curipod, you can find it at curipod.com. It's kind of like if you've used Nearpod or Pear Deck to do interactive slides. It's kind of like that, where it will generate a bunch of slides for you. All you have to do is just give it a topic, the grade level, and you can even put in learning objectives and standards if you want. And then you hit that do magic button, and it's going to create a set of slides for you. Now, one of the types of slides that you can add, which I think is really cool, is the student feedback slide. And so what you do is you give the students a prompt. Like, for instance, this was one that I did for a workshop that says, write about the top benefits of going to conferences, like teacher professional development conferences. And so then you write your prompt. This is what it looks like, for me as the student writing it. And then what Curipod will do is it'll take that prompt. This is the same thing as this over here. It'll take that prompt, and then it will give you some feedback about how you can improve it. Now, here's what I found about their feedback. It's okay. Like, it's not the top level feedback that a highly qualified human teacher would give, but it is timely. And so it might be like a good first line of defense. Students write something and then immediately they get that. So that could be helpful in that way. So anyway, that's Curipod if you want to go check it out. And then the last one I wanted to show you real fast is Brisk Teaching, which you can find at briskteaching.com. It's got this neat, and by the way, there's a link right down there at the bottom. Let me move that so the bar gets out of the way. There's a link to a demo that where I show you how Brisk works. It's just like a YouTube video. But Brisk Teaching sort of like installs this little icon in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen and lets you do a variety of different things inside of a document or inside of a set of slides or whatever. And one of them is to give feedback. And one of the things that I like about it is that it will, in one of the versions, it will create feedback by analyzing the writing, and then it'll start dropping little comments into the document, which you can either cancel to clear it out if you don't like it. You can adjust it to edit it to the way that you would say it, or you can just submit the comment and it'll just be plugged right into the document. And so it can be a good first line of defense for leaving student feedback. And so that's available. That's in briskteaching.com. Okay, so if you got, this is kind of like with my keynote speech. If you got your camera, your cell phone camera, you can take a quick snapshot of this if you want to, or you can just go to ditch.link/upgrades to hang on to all of these. But these are my 10 AI-based upgrades to teaching and learning that you can start using right away. So hopefully there's some good stuff in there that you can use. If you all have had the chat open and have had that available, I don't know, for some reason mine isn't working, so I apologize if, but hopefully it's been, if there was a chat, hopefully it was helpful to you. But either way, hopefully you've got some good stuff that you can use there. And feel free to hang on to that link and share it with others if you want to. So, all right. So that's what I've got for you today. Looks like we've got another 8 minutes, I think, before our next session starts. So I'll go ahead and end this here so you can jump off to your next one. I might see you at another one. Would love to do that. If not, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful rest of your school year. All right. Thanks. Take care.
Thank you.